Hello, everybody. My name is Miss Amber. I'm one of the curriculum guides specialists. Um, I'm basically someone that works with the English and elective classes to help students out whenever they're stuck in their courses. First of all, welcome back. Welcome back. And this video today is just to go over how to go about doing guided notes. If you're seeing this video, then it's possible that your advocate or your mentor sent it to you because you may have had a little issue getting through the course and figuring things out. You may have also discovered this in the resources folder for the English courses. But that's pretty much what we're going to be covering today. Hopefully, this video won't be too long. So we are actually going to dive right in. I'm going to share my screen and we are going to take a look at English 11A as an example today. Now, even if you are not in English 11A, the courses are basically structured the same for all of them. So you should be able to use this as an example of how to get to your guided notes. We are going to review just the resources that you have for taking notes and reviewing things in the tutorials when you open them up. And basically things that you'll want to look at that might help you with filling out the guided notes. Now, if you don't know what guided notes are, please stay tuned because I'm pretty much going to open it up and show it to you so that you can actually see what they are and what they are used for. So before we get to that explanation, I want to just start with saying I know that there's a lot of stuff here. If you are a new student, there should be a course overview video. If you scroll down to the resources, it's right here at the bottom. This video will go over pretty much everything that makes up the course. It stops at all of these to explain what these are. It shows the structure of like the units and the tutorials. It shows you what's at the end here in terms of the study guide, submitting notes, and what you're expected to do. It goes over that briefly. So if that's what you need, then go ahead with the course overview video. This is specifically about guided notes for students who either don't know what they are or just aren't sure how to fill them out. So we're going to dive into the Unit 1 first lesson, Perspectives in American Literature, and we'll use that as an example. Now, the way that the tutorials are set up are all the same for all of the classes, so you shouldn't have to worry about following along. Even if the lesson is different, it should still have the same components. So we're going to go ahead and click on this. Okay. Now, when you open up the tutorial, the first thing you are going to see is an intro video. It's basically just a little animation that introduces the topic. You can also see this up here and the perspectives of American literature. Now, this bar over here on the left is where you're going to eventually find the guided notes. So I want to go over what these options are from top to bottom, and then we'll dive into the guided notes. So if you click here, first, we have a table of contents. The table of contents shows you all of the different sections of the lesson and what their titles are. Now, I have the staff view, so I'm able to click on any of these and jump around. But if this is the first time you've opened up a tutorial, it's going to show any option you haven't already clicked to as being gray. You can't hop around in the tutorials if you've never taken the tutorial, the lesson, the test before. You actually have to go through it naturally. And as you go through and advance to each slide, then it will unlock, it'll fill in this menu so that you can click and go back and forth. Now, this just tells you what the major sections are. Here you can see that there's 7 major sections and they're labeled. So this is just navigation so that if you need to come back and get information later, if you've missed something in your notes or there's something you need to review before you take a test again, you can use these shortcuts since you've already gone through the tutorial to find what you want more quickly. Now here, the second option, the resources folder. This is where you're going to find the guided notes. It's here at the top. The guided notes are usually at the top. The glossary is usually at the bottom. So just a brief explanation of what these are. The guided notes are fill in the blank notes that we have for each of these courses. You can find them in the main subjects, right? So English, math, science, and social studies. All of those courses have guided notes. The goal of those guided notes is to take the most important sections of the lesson and highlight them for you, so that you have a bit of an idea of what sort of things you should be focusing on and taking notes on. They are fill in the blank. So as you are reading through the tutorials, you're going to fill them in. Now we are going to come back and actually show that in action, but I want to tackle the other things on this menu first. Now, these three options in the middle here are just the reading selections. So they're quick links for the reading selections in case you aren't able to finish reading while you're in the middle of a tutorial. Maybe you have to leave and come back. Maybe you're doing an assignment that needs you to reread them. You can always open this up and go straight to it. So for example, From the Dark Tower is a poem, I believe. Yes, that is referenced in this lesson. So it opens up this whole new tab that shows you the website where you can read this. Now, not all of the reading selections have external links like this. A lot of them are built into the course. So they are still in Edmentum, but this just happens to be one that isn't that. These two are also poems and they open up to their own web pages as well. Now, lastly, we have the glossary. The glossary is basically a list of words that are important to the class. The glossary here shows you vocabulary for the whole course. So all of these are not for just this one lesson. This is for the whole course. They put this all in one doc so that you only have to go one place. Every lesson should be linked to this glossary. It should be in the resources folder for every lesson. So the idea is that you would be able to find what you need. You can hit, like Control F and have the search bar come down over here. You could type in what you're looking for if there's something you've forgotten or something that's not in your notes. Maybe you're filling out the guided notes and you have this up, so it's easy for you to just look at the definition instead of going through the slides. We just try to offer you guys different things so that you have different options depending on how you learn, because everyone learns differently. All right, the next tab here is the dictionary. This allows you to look up a word. Oh, I think this stays open if I don't. Yeah, it does. Alrighty. This allows you to look up pretty much any word. So even if you wanted to look up a word like perspectives, I can double click on this. I'm going to hit Control C because that's the shortcut for copying, and Control V because that's the shortcut for paste. I'm going to delete that space and then just look it up, right? So here we go. You've looked up that word. It shows you the definition. So if there's ever a vocabulary word that you don't know while you're reading either a reading selection, while you're going through the tutorial, always, always, always take time to look up the word that you want the definition to here. We have this resource here for you so you don't have to go off site. You can open another tab and, go to Merriam-Webster, but we have it right here. Alrighty. This next bit is very important. So we have the reading tools. Not everyone learns well just by reading. Sometimes people do better when they hear things, right? So we have these resources here for that. The slide narration is when someone is narrating to you, they're reading to you, right? They're telling you a story. So slide narration here means that if you turn this on, whenever you go to any of the slides, it will start reading automatically. It even says that here. When on, slides that contain narration will automatically play. And then we have click to speak, which is a similar option, but not exactly the same. So you still get a voice reading the material to you, but when this is on, you can click on the sentences to hear them read aloud. So say you process things a little slowly, maybe you're taking notes, so you don't want it to just read through everything automatically. That might be too fast for you. If you do the click to speak, you can click on each sentence and it will read it one at a time as you click on them to help control the speed you're taking in information there. That's very important. Alrighty. Now down here we have translation. I don't think you guys will be using this that often. Usually if there are words that come from other languages in these lessons, they will actually tell you in the lesson. But this is here just in case you want to translate something, or if you're just not sure if the meaning is accurate and you want to test it. But this isn't really something that you'll need. And then last but not least, we have the highlighters. So the highlighters, I will click over to show you an example really quickly. Alrighty, so we are on slide, I want to say, yep, 5. Slide 5. Highlighting can work really well if you have an idea of what you want to write down for your notes. Since we have guided notes, you may not use these as much for your core classes, right? The math, reading, math, reading, or English, social studies, and science. You may not use it that much for those courses because you have the guided notes and you can just fill them in. But if you're taking an elective and you think you might need to handwrite your notes because you still have to turn them in, you may be able to use these to help. Basically, you click on a color and you can, once you highlight something on the page, you can click and it'll highlight that color. Now, usually this works for pointing out what you want to write down while you're reading it. I'm going to have another video up about how to handwrite notes, and we'll sort of go over how to use the highlighter to do that. But in this sense, if you're highlighting something that you think fills in one of the blanks for the guided notes, you would just click on it, click a color. You can have more than one color on the screen at once. And it's just basically to make sure that you come back and look at certain things that you might think are important. Once you go to the next slide, those highlights don't stay. So the highlights are just for you to use while you're on that page. I can't emphasize that enough. This is for you to point something out that's important for you to remember, maybe write down, take a screenshot of, however it is that you do your notes personally before you move on to the next slide. Please keep in mind, though, if you are highlighting things for screenshots, that you still have to turn in either guided notes or handwritten notes to get credit in the course. You can take screenshots for your own studies, like if it just helps you to get through the material really quick and you can review it later. But when you turn stuff in, you cannot turn in screenshots. You cannot turn in typed up notes. It has to be either the guided notes or handwritten notes. Alrighty, now that we've gone through all of these things, we're gonna hop back to the resources and actually open up the guided notes so you guys can see what they look like. So here we go. It should open up in a new tab. Ooh, pretty. These are the Edmentum guided notes. So they're made up of a couple different portions. We're gonna scroll through a couple of the pages. This objective is always at the top. They always want you to keep the objective in mind. The objective is a fancy word for goal. So the objective tells you this is what the lesson is going to be about. They always tell you that at the beginning. Now, as you can see, the rest of this are sentences that have these fill in the blanks here. And it is actually very important for you to pay attention and follow along. They have the labels here that coordinate with the different sections. This says the American identity, and so does this section here, right? The American identity. They match up. So as you're going through the tutorial, you should be able to follow along in the sections so that you can find out where the blanks are supposed to be filled in. Okay. Very important. This is also important. I'm going to move myself actually over here for a bit. There's this option here, this arrow that says download when you hover over it. It might look a little different depending on what browser you're using. If you're using Firefox, if you're using Chrome, if you're using Edge, it might look slightly different, but you should still have these options. Now, when you click on this, it gives you the save option. There should be another option here. I'm not sure why it's, oh, well, maybe it's because I haven't actually typed anything in yet. So let's do that first. Usually you get an option when you click on this that'll say save with changes or save without changes. So let's dive in, fill in a little bit, and then we'll come back to the save so I can show you what those options are. There's a couple different ways that you can save these documents, and I'm going to go through as many of them as I can fit in this video. So we start off with this objective. So you're filling this out for the first time, right? If we go back a few slides, slide number 3 for most of these tutorials is going to have the objectives. Depending on what class you're in, so if you're in a class that's not English, it might be slide 2 or 4, but there's always going to be a slide that looks like this with this purple circle with the objective here. Now it says, in this lesson, you will analyze different perspectives of the American identity in literature. Now, what we're going to do to fill this in, you could try to type this in all yourself, but you don't have to. You can actually highlight it with your cursor and you can copy it. Now, there's 2 ways to copy. The one you're familiar with is to right click and hit copy, right? But if you're on a tablet or um, if you are, on your phone, you'll have to go through your select and then like copy menu. Another way that you can do this on the computer is to hold Control and hit C. That is the shortcut for copying things. And if you come here, there are 2 ways you can paste. You can right click and you can paste here, or you can hit Control and V. That is the command for pasting. Now here you notice we have a little bit of a duplicate here. They already gave us the in this lesson you will, so we don't need that part. And we can actually highlight this and delete it. So I'm just going to backspace, and there we go. We've got that part. So now we're moving into that first slide. Now I'm not going to fill out the entire guided notes. I just want to do this first page so that you guys have an idea of how to fill them in. So these blanks follow the sentences that are here. So I want to give you the advice to always read the paragraphs first before you go to fill anything in. The reason why it's important to do this is because, I'm going to move myself up here for a second, is because it's important to understand what you're writing down. The guided notes gives you the blanks that are important to remember for you to be able to pass your mastery test. The things that are covered on the guided notes are directly connected to the questions that you get asked on the mastery test. The ideas, the history, the concepts and ideas are related to those questions. So I would, pause this video, take a moment to read this so that you can get an idea of what it says. I've gone over this a million times, so I'm just going to dive right in, moving back and forth to compare the guided notes to this, and then we'll fill in the blanks. So assuming that you've read this the way you were supposed to, you would come over here and, the idea of an American blank has changed significantly over time. Now, you might know what goes in the blank is identity, but this is the first sentence, so you would look at this a second time and say, oh, this is identity, right? Now, of course, you can just copy this and paste it in. You can also type it in. Any of these works. I like to put a space before I put anything in there just so that it's not all run together. And then we have the second sentence, American blank and the first European blank represent the earliest American identity. So we come back over here and we, search for a sentence that's very similar to that, right? So as soon as the colonists came over from the New World to the New World from Europe, right? So this is information that goes in the blanks. And this is why I say it's important to read. You actually have to understand what the sentences are saying. All of the sentences are not a one-to-one filling out the blank. You actually have to understand what the sentences are telling you to fill in the blanks. Now, this second sentence tells you as soon as the colonists came over to the New World, right? That's what America was called when they first got here. They named it the New World, and they came from Europe. So that gives us some of the information that goes in the blanks here. American colonists, right? So we've got colonists. And then we've got the first European blank as part of the identity. So it says if we read the rest of the paragraph, it tells us about essays, letters, articles, and things like that. And then it also tells us about this excerpt from William Bradford. He describes the emotions that are felt by colonists when they first saw land after months at sea. And in this section, because the guided notes have blanks that correlate to the whole section, sometimes when you're filling this in, you're going to want to double check, is there another slide, right? So this is actually very important. So we've got immigrants to the United States from different countries. And this paragraph pretty much gives us that second blank. So we have American colonists and the first European immigrants is what goes here, represent the earliest American identity. Now, I know I'm moving a little fast, so we're going to go back to this slide. I'm going to explain how we know that that goes there. So we talked about American colonists, right? It says the colonists came over to the New World from Europe, but there's European blank. So we're talking about people that have come over, right? So it says here in the 1800s, the sudden influx of immigrants to the United States from different countries led to changes in the American identity in new, unprecedented ways. And so we have this blank here, immigrants. And you can check this back and forth, right, to make sure that things are correct. Let's see. You can just sort of compare back and forth, make sure that the sentences line up, that you're understanding the information that's there. We had the second part of the sentence was changes to the American identity again. So sometimes you have words that go in more than one space. So identity both goes here, immigrants both go here. So this sentence is basically a summary of the information that's in these boxes. And then we have a quote from American writer Stephen Crane. It says he wrote The Red Badge of Courage, which is a novel centered around blank, right? So we want to look for that in the tutorial. If you've just read the slides, it's easier for you to know what's supposed to go there. You'll actually know where the red badge of courage actually is in this paragraph. For the sake of filling it in, it is actually here. It was centered around soldiers in the Civil War. So you want to come back over to the guided notes. And it's centered around soldiers. They just want one word here. You could actually type in soldiers in the Civil War and put that in the blank. But soldiers, I think, would be good enough. So what I'm actually going to do also to show you that you can copy and paste. So I'm going to copy that right there. I'm going to highlight this whole thing, and then we're going to paste. So you can do it either way. These are all ways that you can fill this in. And then we have major events in U.S. history often have profound effects on blank. So we want to try to find that information. If you've read this slide, you would already know where it is. But it is the first sentence here. Major events in U.S. history often have profound effects on American literature. So literature is what people write, if you're not familiar with that word. So we have literature. Also, as a note here, if you are having difficulty with words, you don't know the definitions, you can always come to the dictionary right here. Say you don't know what literature means, right? You can type in literature, copy it right from the slide, or you can double click and copy and paste it in there. Hit enter, and it will tell you what it is. Written works having excellence of form or expression and ideas of lasting and widespread interest. So basically, good writing that lasts a long time because it's considered to be good. All right. Now, if we scroll down a little more, we've got a few other things to fill in here. We have in his poem From the Dark Tower, African-American Conti Cullen describes his perspective on blank relations in the United States. Now, that's not something that we've seen on these slides so far. We've seen talk of immigrants. We saw the colonists on the previous slide. We talked about the Red Badge of Courage and major major events in U.S. history, but nothing about Conti Cullen. So this is a case where you will want to click forward to see, oh, there's more to this section. And looking at this, they give you an explanation of what you're about to read. This is one of the reading selections. You can tell because this link is blue and you can click on it. And if you were to read this all the way through, you would know that what goes in that blank is racial relations. So this is what goes here. He talks about racial relations in the United States. Now, there's some other blanks here that have to do with the lesson, planting and standing, and they talk about this here. Planting while others reap, and standing abject and mute. So they're talking about direct quotes from the poem. And so we would paste these here, right? Forgot to put my usual space there, so let me go back, whoops, and do that. Oh no. There we go. Oh, for whatever reason, it won't let me put the space there. There we go. And then standing abject and mute. I know that quote, so I'm just going to put this in here, but you would go back to copy and paste it. So it says he's speaking about the blank present in U.S. society. Now, since we know what sentence this comes from, we can follow the rest of the sentence. The racial injustices present in U.S. society. So that is what he's talking about here. So we're gonna put this in this blank here. As these injustices change over time, I hit enter to do this, by the way. I just hit enter to put it in the middle. The American blank has also shifted. So if we look at the rest of this sentence, it says the American identity has also shifted. So this is another space where identity goes. This whole lesson is about perspectives and American literature. So perspectives is like where you're coming from, the way that you view things. So identity is a big part of that, right? Because you view things based on who you are. So that's why identity repeats in so many spaces on this page. So imagine you have filled out all of these for the whole lesson. You've gone through, you've done the readings, you've backtracked to make sure you've got these examples, and you're ready to save. So this is when you would click this button here. And here we go. We got the drop down. Once you start filling it in, it gives you the option. You can save it with your changes, or you can save it without your changes. Now, I want to explain the risks of filling it out on this page here. Now, when you open this up and you're filling it out the same way that I filled it out, if your internet has any issues, if you accidentally refresh the page, if you forget to save it, you will have to fill all of this out again, right? So some people, if you know you've got a good connection, if you know you don't have to worry about those things, if you're a little quicker at reading, you've already gone through the lesson and you're just filling this in so that you have it before you take the test, you might be able to get through this quickly enough that it's not a big deal. You don't have to worry about losing the information. If you're doing it that way, you would fill this out, you would click save with your changes, and it will bring up a save window, and you'll want to save it wherever it is, whichever folder you save things on. I personally would put this in my notes examples folder, and I would just save it here. You can come down to the file name, and I would just put English 11A, maybe like Unit 1, and then perspectives in American literature. The reason why I do it like that is because it's easy to find them if you know where they are. The folder's going to sort everything by name. You can look at it at a glance. Sometimes you can shorten it. You could just cut this and say 11A. You could also shorten English to ENG. That way you don't have to type the whole thing. But having the lesson name in there is usually pretty helpful so that you don't have to go scrambling to find the files after you save them. So I'm going to cancel, but in this case, you would save to keep this there. Actually, you know what? I will save it just to show you that it will keep those when I open them back up. So let me open up a folder. We're going to open up this folder here. So I'm going to double click on it and it's going to open this up. Now it only has this first page because that's all that I filled out. The rest of this is still blank. Alrighty. So it should save exactly like that. Now, the couple other ways you can fill these notes out, you can also just save it blank, right? And then fill it in on your computer. So you can, I'm going to refresh this since I've already saved it. I'm going to refresh this. And just if you hit download while it's empty, it'll just have you save the empty page, right? So you can, and it also has the name in here too. So it also gives you the name. So you can save it like that. And let's see, notes examples. So now if I'm clicking on this one, this has all the dashes and underscores in it. So I know that that's the blank one. If you open it up, it'll be blank. And since it's saved to your computer, you can open it up here. And because it's saved to your computer, you don't have to worry about losing the information that's here. You can also fill it in and save it periodically over time while you're filling it out. Just make sure that you save. Just make sure that you save. That is what's most important so that you don't lose your progress. Another way that you can save, like I'm not sure what types of computers you guys have, so I just want to go through all the options. You can also, if you fill out everything, that's here, you can also come to this print button here. It will open this up for you and you can save as a PDF. If you save as a PDF, it should save all of the information that you filled in. I am going to open up the one that I filled out and just show you an example of this. So let's see, print to PDF. That is the option you want. You want print to PDF. You can save as a PDF, but it sort of depends on if you have Adobe installed on your computer. If you don't, Microsoft Print to PDF will also work. Now, as you can see, it's got the stuff that I filled in. I'm going to hit print. And then it gives you the option to save print output. So I'm going to go to my notes examples again, and I'm going to go print save example. And there we go. We've saved it again. So this time when I keep closing that folder, sorry guys. So this time when we come in here, we've got the print save example and it pulls up and it still has the things that we filled in. So I just wanted to show you a few different ways to do that, just so that you guys have the down low on what different options you have if something's not working for you. If you're having trouble going through the first option, you can check out the second option. Okay, now that is pretty much it for this lesson, at least in terms of taking guided notes. I do want to scroll up to remind you of, in terms of the completion requirements, how many pages you have to have. This should be loading soon. Yes, here we go. Now, the course completion checklist tells you everything that you're going to need to basically to figure out what you have to turn in. Here we go. That's what I was looking for. Okay, so for notes, we're right here. For notes, a core course, that's math, English, science, social studies. You need 5 pages of handwritten notes. Some students prefer handwritten notes. They don't like filling in the blanks on the guided notes. They want to handwrite them. If you don't know how to do handwritten notes, I'll supply a lesson on that for you guys very soon. There should be another video in the resource folder that is about handwriting your notes. And for 10 pages of guided notes. There's more guided notes pages because you don't have to do much besides besides filling in the blanks. If you're writing everything yourself, there's a little more effort. You're spending a little more time. You're probably going to have way more pages than just 5 by the end of the course. So we don't need you to turn in as many. The guided notes, you don't have to come up with how to organize anything or anything like that. So there's that. There's also this guided notes tutorial, which covers some of the same things that I have here in this video. And we'll accept those. You'll turn them in, you'll upload them, and then you'll get credit. And that's something you have to do to have the final exam unlocked. Now, for elective courses, it's a bit different. You need 3 pages of handwritten notes, and there are not guided notes for electives, and that's why there's fewer pages of handwritten notes. Alrighty. So that is about it. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. So overall, guided notes are just a really useful tool. They directly help you with your mastery test. The stuff that's covered in the guided notes are directly related to the mastery tests. So please, please, please make sure that you're filling them out. In terms of other pointers that I can give you, remember Control-C is to copy, Control-V is to paste. And if you are in a course right now and you're just seeing this video for the first time, you're a couple lessons in, take time to go back and fill in the guided notes. It's easier, it's a lot easier to fill them out as you go along instead of having to fill out a bunch of them and just to sit there for such a long amount of time filling out pages and pages and pages and pages so that you can turn them in. If you do a little bit each time you're in a tutorial, you just do them one at a time. Even if you go through the tutorial first and then you fill out the guided notes before taking the test and moving on to the next lesson, that's still better at the end of the day than anything that you're gonna be stuck with doing at the end of the course if you delay what's going on. You definitely want to take time to take your notes as you go so that you don't just have a huge pile at the end. And that is it for me. If you have any questions, reach out to your advocate or your mentor. Feel free to schedule with a curriculum guide, and we can help you out. We can answer any questions you have. Alrighty, this is Miss Amber signing off, and good luck with your English class.